right, welcome champions. So in fact, we have been doing this program for quite a few years. It started at the second DEI Symposium, but each year we have been giving the award out at different events. We've now standardized it to the National Leadership Conference, but this is the first time we've actually had the whole row of champions together, with the exception of Chad Cooper, who couldn't make it. So everybody, another round of applause for them. Okay. And a quick reminder that nominations are open for the 2023 DEI Champion of the Year. So a couple of things we're going to note here. So one of the pieces when we were putting all of this DEI Symposium together is we had a lot of conversation about DEI and should we use these words anymore? Should we use a different name? Because they've become so weaponized in the last couple of years, and we wanted to address that kind of head on. And so for NAIFA, DEI, when it was first put into place in the 2020 strategic plan and then again in the 2025 strategic plan, was really about workforce development. And so one of the things we wanted to do today is kind of return to that, the original intent, so we are all very clear what NAIFA is doing, and talk about workforce development and specifically marketplace development. And so the first question we're going to talk to with the champions here is talking about marketplaces, right? Underserved, underrepresented, and then why this group of illustrious NAIFA members here have become chosen to be champions because of the work they've done in their respective marketplaces. So I'm going to go down kind of the row, and I'm going to start with our rookie here, our 2022 newest diversity champion, Chris Gandy, and talk about your specific marketplace and how people can develop their marketplace and what your marketplace is and how that fits in with your DEI initiative personally.
Okay, so since I'm the rookie, I think I'm the tallest, though.
Yes,
I'm the shortest, so.
So first and foremost, it's an honor to be here representing DEI and also being the, I'll pass the gavel to someone this year as the diversity champion. So I know we're limited on time, but I'm going to speak to the African American space. So one of the key things for me is working in the African American space is going back and dealing with education. So financial literacy becomes super important because if I took my situation, the way in which I don't never remember ever anyone coming into my home, sitting down with my mother, ever saying to her that I'm going to be here to help you take care of your family and educate your kids. I don't ever remember that happening. And so I went through my family and I started asking questions along those lines of, okay, I have 7 uncles and 6 aunts, by the way. And so I asked them questions of that similar presence of, do you know anyone? Did anyone ever come to your house, sit down with you, and to teach you or to show you or give you access to these products? They said, we heard about them at work. We heard about some things, but we did no, that didn't happen. And vice versa. We were conditioned when we were younger is to go back and not really talk about money. And so when the combination of those two things happens, when there's a lack of literacy, and then there's also the cultural norms that exist of not talking about money until someone else's dies. You know, there was a saying in our church that other people leave wills and black people leave bills, which was inherent in the community. And then you know, you say that and you're kind of like, wow, right? And you mean it because you see it so much. And so for me, it was not only my passion, but it was my desire to give back and to go back and educate individuals on the importance of having a solid foundation, the importance of understanding and unconditioning some of the things that they had learned naturally, and then to do it differently. And to do it differently, you have a right to, you become empowered. And that's where that empowerment from our perspective comes from. And then not just doing it from that perspective, but also giving back to communities. And, you know, at the end of the day, the African American community, the money that comes into it and leaves it doesn't have the boomerang effect. And I talk about that all the time, is that some communities, that's what happens. And I remember having this conversation, and then I'll pass the mic. But I remember having this conversation with one of my friends that super successful in Chicago, and he's from the Jewish community. He's a Synod's guy, and we're talking, and he goes, "Chris, I love that idea you were talking about." He goes, "But I got someone in my synagogue I could do that business with. Even though you brought it to me, it's a great idea." He goes, "I'm gonna do it in my community," which I was like, "Huh, interesting." And so I thought about it. I said, "Why are we not doing that for us?" So anytime there is we get business or we do business with anybody that is of an African American descent or minority descent, we give back 20 cents on every dollar that comes into our agency. We give it back to organizations that support those local places, and that's intentional because I'm the CEO of the group, so that's the deal.
Stephen, what about you?
Yeah, I always feel like the alien on the stage when we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I come from Hawaii, and what marketplace am I in right now? I'm in I guess arguably I'm in the Asian marketplace, but it's why I say arguably is that I didn't know there was an Asian marketplace. In fact, I had to come to the mainland of the USA to understand the difference between what Orientals were and what Asians are. And because someone asked me what I was, and I said, what do you mean by that? And they were talking about my ethnic background. I didn't put two and two together because in Hawaii we ask where you're from, and usually that means your high school. So I had no clue, and what came out of my mouth was Oriental, and then I got lectured by another American of Japanese ancestry, which I am. Who told me that no, Orientals are rugs and things like that, and Asians are people. And I thought to myself, that's why we have a problem in the United States of America. And I've been on that ride forever, ever since, and I still have that. One of the biggest challenges I have probably with diversity, equity, and inclusion is the fact that I find myself polarized oftentimes. I visit the country of Japan because I have operations in 5 different countries. Japan's one of them, and I am a very red, white, and blue American. I judge everything from these red, white, and blue eyes, and I'm so shocked and dismayed by my American brothers and sisters who say the kinds of things that we say because of ignorance, and so I carry this anger on a regular basis inside of me, and I have to learn from people like Gandy and others on this stage that it's okay, that it's better for me to maybe share and learn and from each other and maybe teach at the same time what I've learned along the way. And so I guess I sit here when we're talking about marketplace, because I know that's the question, is that, the other part is I'm third generation in this business that didn't want to come in this business, and coming in Hawaii, think about it. Third generation means all your uncles and aunties and everybody else is in the business. That's how it was. So who are you going to do business with? And I realized initially I was really benefited because I met a lot of single mothers who really saved my life because they taught me the value of what we do in this business and how underserved, if not poorly served or unserved, those communities are. We just heard 29% are in poverty. And I've just taken that to a different place. And today I look at the world from country to country as being different. And I want to navigate the world. I think we're globalized and we should be able to do that. And I want to bring down the walls that keep us from being able to do that because of our differences primarily of culture and how we look at things and how we speak the language and so on and so forth. And I could go on and on, and I'm not going to do that. But suffice it to say that here we are in the United States of America, a land of over 200 nations, and yet we're so homogenous in nature. Even in our financial planning world, we're homogenous in nature. I have a partner who's my life partner. She is also a fellow NAIFA and MDRT member and so on and so forth. She's also a green card holder here in the United States. And some of the life insurance companies that she represents allows her to sell the product but won't allow her to buy it. So explain that to me. As we sit here on the stage talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we got to look at ourselves and look at what we're doing and how we're doing things. What law in the world of the United States prohibits a person like that from getting it, that insurance? And you can't give me one. And yet I'm CEOs of big companies stand in front of me to tell me that they're not going to do it because of. And so I think there's the challenges of ignorance that we have to overcome. They're manyfold, not just by race or gender, but just look at our industry and how we judge things from our eyes. And so I think that there's many opportunities when you look from that perspective. So whatever you take on as your vision and mission of a better world, because we are entrepreneurial, at least in spirit. And so I believe that's what lends to finding our marketplaces and leaning into diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Aprilyn?
I think much like you, I followed my passion. I didn't set out to build a practice that was focused on any particular type of person, but because I followed my why, because I was passionate about certain things. For those of you that know my story, you know that I was focused on really helping women, but then I was also focused. I come from New Mexico, and in my community, there are quite a few Hispanics and Native Americans, and so I built my personal practice working with them because I am passionate about that. I know what it is like to not get that financial literacy, to not know where to turn and what to do in certain situations. And we know that women and people stay in bad situations and bad relationships because they are not empowered financially. And so it was very important for me to take what I knew and to use that. And so what I did was I started getting out into the community. And I think, Suzanne, you asked, what did we do? How did we follow our passion and our why to get to where we're at now? And I got out there and I just was myself. I was my authentic self, and I found my tribe, and they were attracted to me. And so now we do a little bit more structured financial literacy. I do the Friday morning talk radio show on the AM talk radio, and I do Financial Friday news, and I talk from the heart. I can talk up here, but I don't. I talk something that's relatable, and people are drawn to that, and so that's served me well. Now, serving as an executive for a $30 million company, I have my practice, but I am also charged with helping other advisors to find their why, to follow their passion, to find their tribe, and that is really a big part of what I do day in, day out, and it's amazing to do what you love and help others to then do what they love. And, as a result, the Gateway was honored by Investment News as the top DEI champion in the country. So one of the top companies. And I think that if you follow your why and if you follow your passion, you will make a difference. Not everybody has the financial literacy and the knowledge that we have, and we have to share that because there are underserved communities in all different aspects. And so it's not necessarily about a different aspect of our community. It's about your passion.
Sometimes I have to pinch myself to think that I'm just sitting here. It's just incredible, and I want to thank everybody that's up here because each person sitting next to me has impacted me significantly, and that's I'm just going to start and say we all need to be extremely grateful for NAIFA. Look at this room. Look at the amazing people, talented professionals we have in this room. So just thanks for tolerating me. I am a native Washingtonian, so I think that there's another whoop out there. There's like two of us, right? Everybody in DC is not from DC.
I'm one.
So there we go.
Sixth generation. Yeah.
There we go. So DC, as most of you who have just walked around outside for all of 5 minutes, is a fairly diverse city. And so growing up, I always had this sense that you're only as good as the community that you work in and represent. And that means all parts of that community. And so coming into this industry, it was, I guess I never had a vision that didn't account for the fact that I wanted any kind of practice that I had to be reflective of the community that I was in. That if it's an entirely diverse demographic makeup, then I need to be intentional and have all parts of that makeup represented on some level. And so I think the first market that really was foundational and seminal for me was the LGBTQ market. And this takes me back to my banker days, my former past life, getting into the industry, where I was fortunate enough to actually open a branch right in the heart of DuPont Circle, and develop just a lot of relationships in that area. And it was incredible when you go and just are authentic and are in a community and you're there to care. You're not there to market. You're not there to find sales or generate leads. You're there to be a member of the community and to see the community thrive. The community embraced me. It was amazing. I joined the Equality Chamber now. At the time, it was the Capillary Gay and Lesbian Chamber of Commerce. And within a handful of years, I was able to be not just on the board, but the vice president of that organization as a heterosexual white male from Chevy Chase. So, it was something that it doesn't really matter. I think sometimes we make things a little more complicated than we need to when it comes to how do we go about running a really good practice that has these types of things as a part of our DNA. And so I'll touch on a little bit more about that when we get into strategies. But that's always been a community that's been near and dear to my heart. And
Evelyn.
So I'd like to continue with what Chris opened up with in terms of financial literacy piece. My parents are first-generation immigration who came to this country to work very hard. And they have many brothers and sisters. My dad was one of 18. My mom is one of 14. So when I came into the business, they asked for a natural market. All I had to do was kind of take out the family book, right? Because I had a lot of people to be able to talk to. But one of the things I recognized through that process was that in the Latino community, making these types of decisions is a family decision. And it was a family decision because oftentimes I had to switch between being able to speak Spanish and being able to also have the conversations with their children in English became somewhat of the challenge, but also the opportunity as well. So for the last 30 years, my focus has been twofold. One has been really providing education and being a resource to the Latino community. And on the other side of this is also servicing and being a resource to half of our population, which is the women's market, right? And my role is dual, not only as a practitioner with clients, but also in trying to develop my team. So I always believe that attracting, developing, and advancing that next generation of advisor, whether it's someone coming fresh out of college, maybe they're disenchanted with corporate life, or it's that career changer who's looking for that pivot for that next career, has been really critical for me. So those are the two markets. Now, in terms of influence, once I make up my mind about something, I'm all in. So the one word that came to mind when I thought about, where my influence came from, it was just real simple, getting involved, whether it was at the local level or at the national level. If I was passionate about women in the industry, well, my goal was to become president of WIFS, which I accomplished in 2016. If I want to be up on Capitol Hill, well, then the next goal is to be a trustee for NAIFA as well. So for me, influence is all about getting involved, making up your mind that perhaps there's not been someone before you that has stepped up, but as the first diversity champion, I believe that it is absolutely an honor and a responsibility to be able to pull up the next group of individuals who kind of lead the charge.
So Evelyn, we need to fix the debt ceiling. So if you want to put your mind to that, we can fix that. That'd be great. So in our prep call, we spent a lot of time talking about the check the box versus moving the needle. And we want to keep it practical. So as we kind of wrap up this session, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. But can we go through, and I'm going to reverse order on some of you, and ask you, what's the one thing, because all of you are champions, ostensibly leaders, you're out there, right? You got this award because of the work that you've done that's impactful, that actually one of our from the Office of the President, one of our past presidents actually said, this shouldn't even have a nomination process. It should be so evident who should win it because of what you're doing out in the marketplace, right? If you're leading, you're leading. So in looking at our audience here, what's the one thing that you could give to our audience to say they could go and make an impact today and take home with them to make it practical? So Aprilyn, I'll start with you.
I think that in empowerment, when you find your authentic self and you know who you are, you know the direction that you're going on. I'm going to use some Lily, begin with the end in mind, and then you are able to better direct where you're going. And if you know yourself and you know the direction that you're going to be able to help others to do that. And I think that you have to learn how to empower first yourself and then learn how to empower others. So if you are authentic, you're fascinating, you're interesting, you have something to share that is your unique value proposition that you do actually share, you have to be vulnerable, then you can better help others to do the same. So if you are vulnerable, then you can share your story to the degree that it's appropriate, and you can help them to be their best selves. So whether that's transparency and helping them to double down on who they are. I think that a lot of times, we're here to discuss this today, but a lot of times we want to homogenize people. We want for them to be similar. And when I first got onto national boards and whatnot in leadership, I thought that I had to look like the gentleman next to me. And that's not possible. And I was not as powerful as I am now when I was trying to be somebody else. So I had to learn how to find my inner strength and to find my power and be myself so that I can share my perspective, because my perspective is valuable and important. And when I do that, I make a difference not only for myself, but for those that come after me. We have a challenge, and we have a necessity to not only do what we do for ourselves, but for those that come after us. We drink from wells that we did not dig.
Chris?
I would say the key for me, and I think the key for everyone, that I think if you could take and just become the narrative of change. It's okay. I think we shy away from the things that aren't natural to us, and that narrative being that narrative. So if that's hey, let's come up with a great idea that's unique, that's opportunistic. I joke all the time because Suzanne says, hey, we need Chris Gandy to go do this, or we need Chris Gandy to do this. So like, literally, one day I showed her my calendar. She goes, you're really NAIFA committed. That morning we had a call, and then I was on Lily call. I was on Lily for 3 hours, and then we had a membership call that was a committee. And she goes, no, literally, you how? And my whole thing is, I'm blessed and fortunate to be up here. I'm from Kankakee, Illinois. I never thought that I could make more than what my mother made, which was $30,000 to $40,000 a year. And so every day I wake up, I have this like imposter syndrome kind of concept of like, are they really going to pay me to talk to people? And that's essentially how I've looked at it. So this is such a blessing that I think everyone, if we took it as an opportunity to say, we're going to be the narrative of change that we want to see in this world. I just remember my mother saying to me that you don't have to be all things to everybody, but you need to be something to somebody. And if you focus on doing that, then you are the change that people would like to see. And so I love every relationship that I'm able to create. You guys know the people that are in this room. Many of you have called me and asked me, hey, come speak and talk about basketball and inspire our people to be great and do all this wonderful things. And I go. And so I don't say no. And so that's part of service over self. And I know by doing that, 1, I'm a better person. 2, the people around me are better. 3, I learn from all of you in doing that. And also I get a chance to build my NAIFA family and relationships, which, you guys are my family at this point. And I spend more time with you than I do my real family. So,
Brian?
2 questions. If not now, when? And if not us, who? And I've always asked myself those two questions for as far back as I can remember. My dad asked me those questions growing up. It was a part of our family dynamic. And I can't imagine a more pivotal time to be asking and answering those questions. And so I think it is crucial that everybody understands that just developing your community relationships more intentionally is probably the best and most effective strategy. If there's someone here that's wondering, well, this all sounds great, I'd love to do it, what do I do? Step one, don't think that you have to have a practice that's reflective of markets that you might not have connections to. But there is an underrepresented market in every geographic location in the United States of America. So the question really should be, a lot of the other, not just people up here, but a lot of the other prior speakers have talked about this, develop those friendships, right? Find those relationships in your community and do so with intention, do so with the desire to be a change agent. We can all make money doing the right things, but we don't have to go in thinking that I have to go do this to make money. We should do that because we are the face of the financial industry. If money is the number one thing that people get divorced over, it's the number one stressor in the United States of America, we have the amazing opportunity to change lives on a scale I don't think we connect to. And so, I hope that there's an encouragement in there, that it doesn't have to be something that you think is this far cry, this stretch. Putting one foot in front of the other right outside your door will lead you down places you probably never thought possible.
Evelyn?
I think the first thing is to really recognize that moving into this space, if it's the first time that you're doing it or you're doing something different, there requires a certain amount of courage and acknowledgement that you're going to experience some discomfort. And once you can walk yourself through that, I think the important thing is to really decide, what are you committing to? And what does that look like? I know for me, as I think about the next 12 to 15 years of what I want to accomplish in this industry, I want to be able to look back and create a legacy of individuals that look like me, think like me, that I can look back and say, I remember that first initial conversation I had with them about the career, or that first conversation I had about planning, and look where they are. That would be my legacy to the industry. So I would say, understand that there's going to be a level of discomfort, yes. You've got to be a little courageous in this journey, but then decide, what are you committed to, and then seek out those resources that you need to get to that level. Seek out the individuals, have conversations so that you can have a better understanding. So that would be my suggestions.
All right, Stephen, let's bring us home.
Yeah, I love all the commentary. There's so much brilliance on this stage. I'm just fascinated by it all. And but I guess if you really listen to it all, there's an undertone of passionate resolve. I mean, it's not all fun and games here, but it's meaningful. And I think that's a real thing I would call out, is to engage. And don't just connect. Don't, as we're talking about checking off the boxes, right? Whatever it is that moves your, floats your boat, if you will, right? The vision that you have of the better world that you want to change because of the missions that you'll dedicate and commit yourself. That's the thing we get started with, right? So it's understanding first, and then appreciating. And appreciating means you got to go learn. And I'm learning each and every day. I'm learning all through this conference. I'm super excited about what's ahead. I've got a whole number of things that I need to think about and reconsider just from the conversations that we've had. And then I want to engage. But only until I understand and appreciate can I do that. Engaging is so much better than just connecting, right? Be a part of it, because you are that important. We all have this light inside of us. And I think that unique light should shine. If we can bring it all collectively out of us and shine it, from the better place that we are, that we come from, we'll be in a better place as a world. And I think that's what NAIFA stands for. That's why I've been a dedicated member and I will be forever. And I hope that you'll join hands with all of us here on the stage to be that catalyst of change. Thanks for letting us share.
Well, thank you, champions. Audience, can we give them a big round of applause?